For the first time, a pharmaceutical company is being held accountable for its role in the opioid crisis. Now, in this landmark ruling, an Oklahoma judge ordered Johnson & Johnson to pay $572 million for fueling the state's opioid epidemic. The company plans to appeal the ruling. Now, this morning, Johnson & Johnson's attorneys still defending their case, pushing blame onto doctors and away from the drug makers.
We have sympathy for those who suffer from substance abuse, but Johnson & Johnson did not cause the opioid abuse crisis. The way in which the company manufactured these medications and marketed them to doctors was extremely responsible. There are warnings on these medications, FDA-approved warnings, and it is up to the doctor with their patients to make decisions about who is appropriate for these medications.
Now, the Oklahoma trial sets the stage for dozens of other opioid cases. And this fall, there will be a federal trial in Ohio, bringing nearly 2,000 lawsuits into one and going after the opioid makers. Here with me now is one of the lawyers working on that lawsuit, Paul Hanly. Paul, thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much.
So you just heard that defense from one of the attorneys for Johnson & Johnson. What's your reaction to that?
Well, we hear that defense quite often, Victor, and as the court yesterday in Oklahoma found, the defense does not stand up in the face of evidence concerning false marketing of these materials. The fact that the drug is approved by the FDA does not give the manufacturers or distributors a license to make false statements concerning the characteristics of the drug, and that's precisely what the judge in Oklahoma found.
So what does this ruling mean for you as you prepare for this trial in October?
Well, this is a very positive ruling for all of the communities that we represent. More than 2,000 are in litigation, as you know, and this was important because for the first time a court with a full body of evidence before it looked at both sides of the argument and concluded, A, that there is an opioid epidemic, B, that it's a public nuisance, and C, that in this case Johnson & Johnson was the cause of that nuisance. So we're very pleased with the ruling.
The public nuisance element of this, some have called it novel, because when you think of public nuisance, you think of a rundown house or loud neighbors. There's a similar case that was thrown out in North Dakota, but these are state cases, right? So you're in federal court. Is this a fair precedent? You don't have a precedent on the federal level, do you?
Well, there are some cases from different federal courts around the nation that have applied the public nuisance doctrine outside of the context which you describe, which is the landowner context. Yeah. But certainly this is a landmark case and an extremely important case, and the law adapts to changes in society. And so whereas 100 years ago perhaps public nuisance was limited to the landowner cases, we believe the court, as the court did yesterday, will adapt and apply this appropriately to this circumstance of opioid abuse.
Let's talk about the award. $572 million. The state asked for $17.5 billion. And we were talking during the break that you said that the state did not make the case for or to support the 30 years of abatement, and that's what the judge found here, but also that the state can come back year after year and ask for more.
Well, that certainly is the implication of the very end of the judge's opinion, because he finds, as you know, $572 million as temporary abatement number. But then he further holds that he's retaining power, retaining jurisdiction over the case, which implies, strongly implies, that the state of Oklahoma could come back next year and the year after and the year after that with appropriate admissible evidence concerning what the costs are, and Johnson & Johnson in principle would be on the hook for those costs.
So $572 million, just 1/30th of that number for 30 years. That's how they got to that specific number. Let me ask you, you've been working in this arena for a very long time, specifically opioids and
yes.
the epidemic. This is not going to end the opioid epidemic. Do you expect that this ruling, this award, will change drug companies' behavior, their marketing?
Yes, absolutely, because the judge here sent a very strong message that the wrongdoing was principally the marketing, the false marketing, the creation of false science around these drugs. And there's no company in America that wants to take a $572 million
but we
hit.
saw the stock price close up yesterday. I mean, the investors thought that it would be worse.
Well, that happened, we believe, because there was a delay between when the judge announced the award and the release of the opinion. The market reacted to the judge, but when one looks at the opinion, as we were discussing earlier, it's $572 million just for year one.
All right. Paul Hanly.